Ooh. Wow. Okay. Okay. DeFi 4.0, it's getting carved, right? I think I'm going to take credit for DeFi 3.0. And DeFi 3.0 hasn't proved itself out yet. I'll explain why. But DeFi 4.0, I have two totemic creations. One, the Ouroboros totem, which is the one in the light back there. Yeah, that's a cool carving. And then the other one is upside down right now. It's the Tight-Nex totem. And that integrates all of the different protocols in the Tight-Nex ecosystem, and it's constantly morphing. And what I'm carving right now is the Eros portion of it. So I think Tight-Nex was part of DeFi 3.0, and now it's part of a larger movement of DeFi 4.0, which is investor-centric protocols, right? Investor-centric, designed with and for investors who use users. Like, I like to be part of user groups, right? And so so let me explain how I see DeFi 1.0, DeFi 2.0, DeFi 3.0, and then DeFi 4.0. And like, this is just the way to think about it. DeFi 1.0 is Ethereum and Uniswap and Hex. That's DeFi 1.0. Right? And the reason why Hex is there is because Hex really dominated the early phase of Uniswap. So the big innovations in decentralized finance from Bitcoin to Ethereum was smart contracts, the ability to build on this global computer network, right? Now it's become the decentralized financial rails. That's Ethereum. So Ethereum, Uniswap, and yeah, Hex. That summer when Hex launched, it really dominated Uniswap. And Uniswap, the automated market maker system that Uniswap built, is the innovation in addition to Ethereum that really matters in DeFi 1.0. Okay, that's DeFi 1.0. DeFi 2.0, I'm just gonna say Pendle, Aave, and Compound. I'm just gonna use those three as the next level of sort of high-powered applications and teams that have built, pretty substantial total value locked. Pendle right now, I see, has done a 20x in 2024. 20x their total value locked. That means that's a product and a product suite, a platform that is growing, right? So Aave, their V3 lending protocol is pretty powerful, right? Compound is another lending protocol. So those three aren't the only three. There's a lot in DeFi 2.0, which is the, I don't know, the application building on top of Ethereum, right? So a lot of the innovation is happening in DeFi off of Ethereum, and now it's happening on Pulse Chain. It's also happening on Sonic. It's also happening on Avalanche. It's happening in lots of different places, but DeFi 2.0 is, I see it as Pendle, Aave, and Compound. DeFi 3.0, I mean, it was a failed experiment uh, uh, that can rebound, but it was called fair crypto, like Zen. It basically means it's not fair. That's an insider game. It's a tech insider game. What was fair about it is that anybody could mint my own Zen if I used the gas. That's what's fair about it. Titanx built on that fair access principle, and I think that Titanx probably did a better job than Zen. Definitely did a better job than Zen at educating people about how to mint one's own supply, how the supply is going to relate to token value and inflation and deflation. So Titanx was a probably fairer access DeFi. But the only thing really fair about these protocols, Zen and Titanx, is that everyone can mint their own supply or get their own supply on the market, or that the launch is somehow fair and transparent. Okay. The problem with these fair launch systems is that at the end of the day, information is king in making investments. And the more information I have as an investor, the better equipped I am to invest on my own behalf and my family and friends' behalf. So what's not fair about a lot of these protocols is that it's very hard to get answers to one's questions. It's very hard because these aren't user or investor centric protocols, right? Typically, the founders and the builders make themselves available in promotional time, in marketing time, in green candle marketing time, or in big moments. And that's when these founders and developers make themselves available. And so you'll see Jack Levin from Zen show up when he has to talk. You'll see Jake from Titanx show up when he has to, clarify a point. And I'm sure there are inner circle user groups in these protocols that understand the inner workings and the inner dynamics of the strategy, but there's not equal access to information, which is the critical currency for investors. So DeFi 3.0, I started using that label for Vault, right? I started to see Vault, which is a build on Titanx, as not a better version of Titanx, because Titanx is what it is. It's a base currency. It's very inflationary and then very deflationary. And if there's continued adoption on X28, Next will do very well as an asset, and I think it will do very well as an asset. This isn't really about the asset. It's more about investor insight, and a DeFi 4.0 is investor centric, where builders and developers commit to engaging their believers, their holders, their users. Number one, in a meaningful dialogue between the builder, the developer, and the user group. Way better than communities. A community, a lot of people throw that word around and want to say that, you know, communities are the key, and that's fine. It's jargon. It's jargon. It's meaningless unless you put some meat on the bones, right? And so communities are diverse ecosystems, and my experience of decentralized finance communities is they're more about aligned investor groups, right? It's why meme communities are strong and they can give vaporware value because they have an aligned interest. We're going to hold this token and we're going to pump it together, right? That's the aligned interest. Price go up, right? But the larger these groups get, and what you realize, and even in the meme space, especially in the meme space, these are VC coins. They are VC backed, venture capital backed projects, and the interests are not always aligned, particularly for the little guy or gal, right? And so what we learn in DeFi is that information is king. Like if I knew what I know now in terms of strategy for now, fortunately, I didn't go into Zen. I did a little bit because I was bored. I put like $300 into minting Zen just because I didn't understand how a hyper inflationary thing that could like inflate forever for 8 years or something. I didn't get it. And I didn't like that it was taking up all the gas. So I did it just to be part of the early thing, and I still have Zen because I'm like it's worthless basically, and maybe it will be worthwhile, but um, yeah. So DeFi 4.0 is user centricity, where the builders and the developers get um, people who like their product and like the culture of their protocol become the confidants, the testnet users, the early stage feedback loops. That's what the Ouroboros developer has done. That's what Super Shadowy has done with his protocol, his user group. Like I was part of a user group before the protocol launched. And I realized I was like, wow, this developer knows how to build a product. This developer has done startup products before. This developer is engaging me and others to give feedback, right? I was like, wow, that was amazing, right? And so that was why I originally, way back over a year ago, I was interested in Ouroboros because of that dialogue that I was able to have with the developer, um, first on Twitter and then in Telegram, and that dialogue continued. So that's why Ouroboros is the first investor-centric protocol that's going to outperform the competition because it has a killer product and killer technology and a killer use case and like everything about it, like like technically is sound, and it's a huge space, you know, collateral backed stable coins and lending protocols and yield platforms. It's a huge, and the competitive edge that Ouroboros has is the fact that we have incubated this in the Titanx ecosystem, and the Ouroboros developer and our aligned investor group. Yes, there it's a community. It feels like a community. It feels like you can really be yourself as long as as long as I contribute and keep things focused on Ouroboros, right? Um, there is a true dialogue among, investors, users, and then also in a small user group that keeps on giving feedback as the project and the protocol evolves. So Ouroboros is DeFi 4.0. DeFi 4.0, I'm naming it today. And honestly, people say, "Oh, I don't like 4." Why? Look, I'll put DeFi 8.0 tomorrow. It's 2 times 4, right? I'll do DeFi 8.0, which is like, and then we'll do DeFi 16.0, which is, 4 squared. The point is that the next phase of decentralized finance for true DeFi users, people like me that want to build banking on the blockchain, people like me that want to increasingly get off of fiat and into digital currencies, right? And use digital currency, use on-chain finance to serve my interests in freedom and prosperity, right? And contribution beyond self, right? Part of this is like when I'm creating health and wealth and mission beyond self, I'm able to give it away, right? The more that I do well for me and my family, the more that I can contribute beyond self. It's very hard to give of oneself if I don't have, if I don't, if I haven't taken care of like my pups and my son and my art and my business, right? Mm. So DeFi 4.0, investor centricity, right? And that's why I'm really into Eros too. King, do you like Oros before because you understood and got in earlier because of the tech? Um, I like or it's not only because I got in early, though I did. I got in early, but this is a good time to get in. It's also early. We are at a low, and so for people that like Ouroboros, I like because not just of the technology is world class for sure. How does it compare to Aave or Compound? Um, yeah, it's okay. First of all, it's a liquidity fork, right? And so at the center of Ouroboros protocol is USDX, which is a stable coin protocol, right? Where you can only, it's a collateral backed stable coin. Okay. And so basically, Ouroboros hosts collateral assets that you can put into the smart contract and mint or borrow USDX. Okay. It's designed for low and mid cap DeFi assets. That's the biggest comparison, contrast with Aave and Compound. So Ouroboros is really designed for Titanx and DragonX, which are low caps, right? And so it's had to, and people have said that, oh, these are too volatile assets to do a lending protocol. But I think what Ouroboros has proven in this incubator is no, it's actually built in the user-centric, safety mechanisms to protect people like myself from myself, right? And so it compares because it's in a little bit different niche. It's in the same borrowing and lending protocol space, right? But it's a niche within a niche. It's the small and mid cap assets, right? And the other thing that it has that it's a different scaling model than Aave or Compound. Aave and Compound are um, about concentrated liquidity, and now they've gone multi-chain, but it's concentrated liquidity is how they're scaling, which makes a lot of sense, and they've become institutional grade, right? Aave is creating, and with Pendle, I don't know, Compound, we'll see. I think the Compound governance structure is their innovation, but like Pendle and Aave are getting ready for institutional grade adoption, right? Aave's been around for 6 years, right? And so Ouroboros, and so that scaling model is a more traditional scaling model in decentralized finance. It's Ouroboros I like because it's very agile. It's modular, and the scaling model is what's going to be revealed over the next few months. Okay. I can't tell you exactly how it's going to scale, but I can give some principled insights because I too am going to be surprised. So we're about to launch on Ouroboros a staking platform it's a stepping stone, right? It's a stepping stone to a user-centric banking, cosmic banking on the blockchain app designed for users like me and you, basically, right? And designed for protocols, right? So what we're going to see is next is a yield platform, a staking platform in July, right? It's in audit now. And then what we're going to see is the next deployment to a new blockchain. Okay. And in that case, we're going to see Ouroboros scaling by adopting other assets. It's a multi-collateral asset stablecoin platform, right? So you're going to see USDX and any stablecoin derivatives that grow out of USDX, you're going to see them backed by multiple collaterals. That's the scaling innovation that Ouroboros has, which is that it's basically, I don't want to say because I don't know how it's going to play out, but it's basically designed to adopt, onboard new collateral assets, new communities, right into the ORX token. The other thing that distinguishes ORX from a protocol like Aave or Compound or Pendle, all of them, some of them are fee sharing, but ORX is the purest version of a fee sharing token and protocol I've ever seen. Honestly, I maybe there are others, but I haven't seen it. Okay. And what I mean by that is, first of all of our Titanx, those of us who did get in early, what we did was we either put in Titanx or Ethereum to get vesting ORX. It's still vesting. My ORX starts maturing this October, right? And I have ORX maturing between October and February or something. Oh, plus what I'm vesting with USDX staking, right? But the point is that ORX is a true fee sharing token. And we haven't seen the fee sharing potential yet, but just because we're in the incubator phase. But what the next deployment is going to demonstrate, and we'll see how, is how new deployments on other blockchains and other collateral assets end up feeding the ORX staking, right? Which is about to get optimized, right? So it's truly a fee sharing token, ORX. And so if I buy it today and I believe that there's an exponential growth trajectory, I'm just going to hold it and stake it. Like I see Ouroboros as comparable to Aave in terms of the scaling potential. It's going to be very different, but I do think it can have a similar and potentially bigger, more like a spider. Like there's I see it as modular and assuming continued infrastructure support for new assets. Yeah, I see a lot of potential. So, okay. Eros, I'll be quick on this because I wanted to keep this to, yeah, if there are any other questions, King Shackles, about ORX, just let me know. I mean, I could talk about ORX forever, honestly. I really like it. And I really love the culture um, of the protocol, including how we're, you know, moving towards a full on-chain governance style. Right now we've got um, once the vesting ORX happens, I think it'll be I don't know, I'm not sure how it'll work, but it'll be liquid, staked, and maybe locked ORX that gets, you know, voting rights. We'll see. But right now, voting is done by people who are holders of vesting ORX. And there's two ways to get vesting. There's three ways. There were two ways. Two of them are closed. There's one left. The two ways to get vesting ORX was to put Titanx in or Ethereum in. Okay. Or maybe you didn't get vesting ORX with Ethereum. I think you got dripping. Okay. So the only way to get vesting ORX was Titanx. Now, if you have USDX, you can buy USDX. You can either borrow against your Titanx or DragonX and get USDX, or you can buy USDX using USDC and then stake it in the backstop pool. It's farming vesting ORX. So if someone believes in the long-term viability of the platform like I do, I'm going to want to use some USDX, stake it in the backstop pool that adds to the health and well-being of the protocol, right? And helps out when there are liquidations, right? And I'm farming vesting ORX. And yes, I can early claim it, but then I'm sacrificing, and I am contributing. If I early claim my vesting ORX, then I am contributing to the deflationary nature of it, and the ultimate supply will be less. That's the other thing about ORX versus Aave and Compound is that it's a deflationary asset, right? And it has a huge buy and burn. 4 trillion Titanx. All of our Titanx got put into the buy and burn. That's amazing. The developer took no fees out. The developer self-funded this, right? There was no developer fee here. And all the users have been engaged. And do you think ORX price will start to dump after October 16th? Do I think the ORX price will start to dump? I have no idea about the price. I'm not gonna, I don't think that's the trajectory, honestly. Um, I think most people who have held, I think there's going to be a lot of early claiming over the next July, August, and September when there's an alt season. I think a lot of this depends on when price goes up, right? When Ethereum price goes up, Titanx price goes up, ORX price goes up. That's the bonded liquidity that we're working with. It's a blessing and a curse, right? And in a down market, everything goes down together. And so what I think we'll see is probably more dumping between like July, whenever the altcoin market happens. I think you'll see some people taking profits by early claiming their ORX and selling it. Um, I think that will happen. I think um, like there's a diamond hand culture in the ORX investor group, I would say. We'll see how that plays out. But I think it's going to, I think a lot of the big holders of ORX are long-term believers. And I think that the staking, like single-sided staking of ORX by then is going to be valuable, right? It may be the best single side staking opportunity in DeFi, just like staking USDX is, in my opinion, the best stable yield in DeFi by far. I mean, show me something else where I can get vesting. Okay. There are Pendle pools where I can get 18% or something relatively. That's amazing, right? I'm not comparing those two. They're two different things. So no, I don't know, but I don't think it's going to start dumping after October 16th. Um, I actually think that that's going to be like exponential growth time. I think there will be people selling, but I think there are going to be more people buying ORX to get exposure uh, um, to get exposure to the stablecoin super cycle that will probably extend the ORX bullish trend beyond where most other protocols, you know, will do well in. I believe that, I mean, this is one of the things, if in the Titanx ecosystem, one of the question marks, one of the uncertainties is like, how will buy and burns be utilized? In ORX, we know that the buy and burn, the 4 trillion, Titanx are going to be utilized at a good time for the protocol and for the users. We know this. I don't have to know. I just know it's going to be utilized. That probably will extend the bullishness at the right time. So no, I don't think there's going. I think there's going to be a lot of early claiming before October 16th. And then I think between October and I think it's probably January or February where there's supply still vesting. Most of the supply, some little supply is vesting for the backstop pool staking, but most of the supply will come out, I think, by January or February. And so that's when we'll know what the full supply is. I'm guessing it's going to be around 300 million. So I think there's going to be a diamond hand culture among big holders in ORX. And I also think that people will be taking profits. But I see October 16th as probably the beginning of the ORX bull cycle. sort of like what happened with Titanex when all of the inflation was coming due way back when, and everyone said it was going to dump. And so I don't know. When most people say things are going to dump, I think it's probably going to do the opposite. And I think most people think that is that it's going to dump because there's all this supply. I actually think that the diamond hand holders are just going to keep on holding it. Um, and will, if if they're, so yeah, that's sort of what I think. All right. Any other questions about ORX? You want a price prediction? I won't give it to you. Actually, I think I will. But it's 6 years out. Um, Hold on, let me tell you what it is. Um, okay, so 2 times 16,000. Oh, come on. Okay, yeah. This is an outlandish price prediction, right? And it's 6 years from today. Okay. And I don't know if I'll still be watching this, but it'll be interesting. So my price prediction is it'll be $320. ORX will be $320 in 6 years. And now it's about 2 cents. Don't ask me how I got there. It's like the artist, not the strategist. Um, but it is based on the growth trajectory of Aave and what I saw Aave do. And what I learned from Aave, because I bought it very early, I bought Aave at like 18 cents and I sold it at like 78 cents or something. And I kept like literally three of them or something like that. I mean, I had a few in my wallet that I still have. But um, what I learned is, and I also then, I didn't know the protocol and the first product, ETHLend, didn't succeed, and so but I felt like the team was really committed, and I got to have dialogue with the early team just because that's what I like, that's how I make decisions about what I invested in. And so anyway, long story short, I learned to, like, for a gem early stage, I learned to get in early and think about time in the market rather than timing the market. So with ORX, yes, I will be taking some profits on the way up, but the question is, how will I be taking profits? Right? I don't know. I prefer not to sell it. I would prefer, even, I don't really want to borrow against it, but maybe I'll use a little bit of my Ouroboros to, to borrow a small piece of it, maybe just to borrow against it, you know, USDX. That's one way to take profits. That way, at least in my jurisdiction, I don't pay capital gains. I can borrow against my own asset. People are like, my father's like, how do you do this? I'm like, it's smart contract. I'm interacting with a smart contract, right? It's my collateral asset. I'm putting it into the smart contract and then I'm minting USDX out of it and then I'm free to use it. It's crazy. So, okay. Any other ORX questions? How about Eros questions? Most people don't care about Eros now. It's because most people don't know about it, right? And those who do know about it are like, oh no, not Eros, right? But Eros I was interested in Eros from the beginning because it got airdropped to me. All Liquid Titan holders who were holding Liquid Titan over a year ago got Eros airdrop on Pulse Chain as a gift. It's a PTGC fork. It's a 5% fee in, 5% fee out and transfer. It's a fee sharing protocol. And it's totally investor centric. 100% investor centric. There's no more developers or builders. Like they dropped it. The team dropped it. They gave it as a gift, fully decentralized, permissionless, automated, PTGC clone, right? Fee sharing. Same reason why I like Ouroboros protocol. It's a fee sharing token. Ouroboros and Eros are very different. They're like polar opposite. Ouroboros is being built by a pro. Eros was forked by a pro and dropped as a gift. And now it's operating, buying and burning Eros from the day it was dropped. It's totally investor centric. And it's fair access because anyone who was holding Titan X got access to it. And it's fair access because anybody that's willing to educate self about it, about the supply dynamics, will know that it's a cap supply, deflationary, fully automated, permissionless, revoke contract, verified, just operating. And it's got a liquidity web now built around it. That's an integration of build on Titan X assets that we're migrating over, revive some struggling bot tokens and bot program. Yes, Lotus and Eden are doing way better now since we started buying low and bridging and putting into LP with Eros. Eros is performing beautifully. The chart is performing beautifully. And it's not a pump and a dump chart either. There's time to get in. One just has to understand that no one's in charge. It's fully automated. It's cap supply and deflationary and fee sharing. And then you compare it and contrast it with other protocols. And the reason why it's DeFi 4.0 is because even though there's no developer or builder, it's investor centric. We are a group of user investors who have aligned interests. The culture is diamond hands. The culture is build LP with strength on Pulse Chain. The culture is communicate and share and welcome in newcomers with good education and help people to make decisions for self, right? So Eros is very different than ORX, but I like both of them. They're the two protocols that I feel confident talking about right now. I can talk about PDI and I can talk about Titan X and I can talk about Smoke and I can talk about Lotus and I can talk about, but ORX, DeFi 4.0, user investor centric and a user group that I can be part of. Eros, same thing. Investor centric, a user. I am the user group. I'm using it and I'm encouraging builders to build around not just Eros, but build around Pulse Chain and include Eros in the build and use that model that Ouroboros has really piloted for DeFi, which is have an investor user group. It's not like revolutionary in general, but it is revolutionary for DeFi, especially with a non-developer. I mean, it's just elegant how Super Shadowy has built, Ouroboros protocol and the user group. And other groups can learn from that and share from that and can integrate this idea of DeFi 4.0, which is investor centric, with a user group. As opposed to calling investors users, because users get used and use, right? That's how it is. And words are important. So I'm cool. I don't like being called a user personally, but I'm happy to be invited to a user group. Hey, would you use my protocol? Would you give me feedback? Would you use it? Because I like to use DeFi protocols. I like it. I do it. I do it every day, right? And so I like to become part of a user group, but I'm an investor. I invest first my time and my education. Like before Ouroboros launched, I studied that thing for like 6 months as I learned everything I could. So, but that by the time that launched, I was like, I'm in, right? The only regret I have, there's always a regret is last this was it launched mid-October, November, yeah, Q4 of 2024. There was another protocol that also launched later in Q4, and unfortunately I split my investment, not 50-50. I went like I think like 60 into ORX and 40 into the other one. And ORX is a huge winner, and the other one is so far an absolute non-negotiable dud. And there is no user group, there is no dialogue, there's nothing, right? Which is why I can't even talk about it. It doesn't make any sense. Because I'm all about educating self and others with, experience-based wisdom, right? Experience-based wisdom, like wins, losses, the reality. And I actually believe that these two protocols, ORX and Eros, will outperform the competition because of the investor centricity. Because in the Eros case, there is no developer, there is no builder, though people may use Eros and build on it to transform it to Eros X and to do all that good stuff. But currently there is no developer, there is no builder associated with it. And so it's just us, the investors, the users of the platform, the protocol, the LP web, right? And so we can shape the culture, right? Which is why ORX is going to outperform the competition also because, and this is what I'm encouraging our community in Telegram to start doing is shaping the market, right? I hear a lot of like developers and builders waiting for the market. Fine. If you have a protocol that needs to launch when Ethereum and Titanx are pumping, that's fine. I get it. Like you need action. You need action, right? And the thing to do is really what Ouroboros has done and what Eros is in the process of doing, which is create the market, front run the bull run. Like at a time when the rest of the Titanx ecosystem was devastated, Ouroboros is delivering for investors. Not the price action, but the ROI. The ROI of my Titanx into ORX is and will continue to be off the charts, right? So ORX, regardless of what the macro market is going to do, ORX, especially this summer, is going to outperform. Even if people dump an early claim, it's not all about price. We will outperform in terms of users, total value locked, and those are the critical value indicators for a long-term investment like Ouroboros. And same thing with Eros. Eros is outperforming right now. Yeah, it's early. Yeah, it's different. It's a community takeover of a protocol. But for the last 10 weeks, we've had 8 out of 10 green weeks. It just means sentiment is good. It's a microclimate. With low liquidity, early stage projects, user investor groups can create microeconomies and microclimates, which is why I don't get why so many builders and developers disappear when they can't do green candle marketing. That's the time to show up. The time to show up with your users, with your investor group, is when the charts are down, not when it's pumping. That's how builders and devs, to the extent that they're needed, build trust, especially in trustless DeFi, unless you've got true DeFi like Eros, which is fully permissionless, no humans involved, zero. That's DeFi 4.0, man. Now, with ORX, I want the human involved. Eros is different. It operates on its own. Thanks to the PTGC code and a few tweaks of numbers, it operates on its own, right? That's why it's going to survive and thrive long term, because it doesn't need humans, and humans can't fuck it up. Think about how many humans have fucked up investors and fucked over investors. Think about it. Let's be real. It is the rare builder, developer that delivers on the promise of bringing health and wealth to their investor group. That takes time. It's not a promotional message. It's not marketing jargon. It's meaningless unless there's follow through. That's why Ouroboros is outperforming and will continue. In addition to the killer tech, it's killer culture. And Eros is totally different, but it has exponential growth potential because it's a world-class protocol operating on its own. And all it needs is a liquidity web that just buys and burns and strong pairings and a diamond hand holder group, which is what we're building. DeFi 4.0. All right, I'm going to turn it into DeFi 8.0. So it's not just investor centric. The next stage is fee sharing. Fee sharing. And ORX and Eros both do that. Right? Fee sharing is powerful because, at least in the current incarnation of blockchains, like most fees are transactional fees. There are some service fees. For example, on Ouroboros, there's a fee. These are interest-free loans that I'm taking against my asset, but I pay a fee, an origination fee, right? It's a fee to, and it's based on the size of the loan or the minting of my USDX. I love doing that, right? For me, like I'm someone like not with this place, but I had an apartment once. I was buying an apartment in New York City, and you know, just getting a mortgage, and then later, taking out a home equity line to do a renovation. It's just like pulling teeth. Like, getting a loan, even if you've got a real estate, it's just like it's a process. You need lawyers, it costs money and time, and everybody wants everything. like this is the beauty of decentralized finance when I can actually using my computer and my wallet and my hardware, my software and hardware together, I can use a smart contract and put my collateral in and get a stable coin out. Now, as long as I'm able to manage that collateral asset wisely and not get liquidated. Some people have liquidation strategies. That's fine. Like, that's not my strategy. My strategy is to use a collateral asset and borrow safely and then use the stable coin wisely. Not leverage on leverage and looping and looping. Some people will do that. Great. It's not my style. I'll do a little bit of that. I've got a little degen in me that will, do some looping. Right. I watched looping last bull run over on Luna, Terra Luna, and UST, and I was like, this is not going to end well. It's not going to end well. And it didn't end well. And it didn't end well, not because of why I thought, but why I thought was contributing to it. There's too much degenning and too much vaporware and too much inflation and too much, right? Like inflationary yield is fluff. Some inflation, but at the end of the day, it needs to be backed by some value, some protocol value. Which is why I'm okay with like Titanx keeping the Ethereum as a backstop, as a treasury of sorts. What I don't like is the uncertainty when me as an investor user doesn't know, and the developer and the inner circle are the only ones who know critical like financial data and strategy. That's like not, it's like, that's not DeFi 4.0. That's not fair to the investor, the user group. It's really not. All right. All right. This is almost an hour. I need to go get to I have to carve a little bit more because I have to work on Eros and Ouroboros, because when I carve, good things happen, always. It might not always translate to, that's why right now the Titanx totem is turned upside down and I'm working on Eros now, because Eros is part of reviving, even though Titanx ecosystem has had a hard time adopting. Like, it's way easier to get adoption on Pulse Chain for Eros because people understand it. Titanx, people have this like relationship with it that's like emotional, reactive, right? And so that's why, like, I turned the Titanx totem upside down, and I'm working on the Eros part of it just to chill the reactivity out, stop all the projection of negativity out, just chill it out artistically, totemically, right? I can transform stuff, right? Just by carving it. That's how it is. And I can just do it for my own world. And once I do it for my own world, then it translates out into the rest of the world. Right? And so I'm in the process of transforming that Titanx totem right now because of the turn of tides. I'm focused on Eros, because Eros was carved in and left. I carved it in over a year ago. That's just because that's how I roll. When someone gives me a gift, I'm like, thank you. And I carved it. And then it disappeared. And then it came back, and it was very easy for me to adopt it. And it was refreshing because I had just come from the experience of watching all of my developers disappear. All of them, except for the Ouroboros one. Oh, and the Helios one. Every single other prominent developer just disappeared all winter. In the dark times of the bearish sentiment, nowhere to be found. Deving. And I'm like, wow, promote, disappear. And now it's up to 6 months, right? So that's why I had to make a personal pivot to user and investor-centric protocols only. That's my criteria now. It's not how smart the dev is. It's not how good the vision is. It's not how great the white paper is. It's not how great the audits are. It's not about the fair access. It's not about any of that marketing. It's about, can I see under the hood enough to trust, right? Can I? And so for me, this has taught me a huge lesson to look under the hood. Now I know how to look under the hood. I've looked under the hood now from DeFi 4.0 back to 3.0 to 2.0 to 1.0, right? Finally, when I get to DeFi 8.0, where it's investor-centric with fee sharing and a commitment to ongoing dialogue and or DAO. If there's not a DAO, which is a decentralized autonomous organ, there's got to be a dialogue, right? If there's no DAO, there's no dialogue, it's going to dump. That's just that's how investors are, right? If there's no dialogue or there's no DAO, how can you expect there to be, commitments? There aren't. So yeah, and really what I'm talking about is investor-centric early stage protocols, right? Now, there can be some non-investor centric killer protocols. Like there's a lot of them out there that I could imagine investing in, and some I have invested in. But what I'm really talking about is startups, early stage startups that understand the value of putting the user investor at the center of the product development and traction building process. Putting the investor and the user centric to balance out, because in Titanx, for example, it became an imbalanced ecosystem. It was so builder centric. I know that builders have suffered in Titanx, but some haven't. Some have done very well, I'm sure. But it was an investor-centric incentive structure that incentivized builders with up to 8% of performance. And it's not really long-term performance. It's just the performance of getting the initial investment. Okay, so now obviously, if the protocol performs long-term and there's a demand equation, more new capital can come in, and maybe the developer gets their 8%. But the point is that the incentives got imbalanced, in my humble opinion. Ouroboros was the only protocol that I experience putting the investor at the center, the user at the center of the product development, and then the platform scaling process from the beginning. And so going forward, that's my criteria. How user investor centric is it? And how much can I look under the hood into the ownership dynamics? It's part of the reason, even though I really like PDI and Atropa and Bear, I like them as speculative assets. They're not investor centric. It's very hard for an investor to understand what's going on. I like them as speculation, but to rely on them, it's very hard right now. I like pairing Eros with them. Eros is investor centric, and so I have that, and I'm wanting to pair with strength, things that I think are going to do really well in this next cycle. Long term, I don't know, man. I'm hoping PDI goes to $1. I have no idea. Right. All right, man. Peace out. I gotta go.